welcome to the Polish and Flourish series by the Polish Cultural Institute, New York. Today my guest is Maja Steczkowska, a visiting student researcher at the NASA JPL laboratory in California. It's so nice to finally meet you. I've been waiting for a couple of months for this interview.
I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. My first question is, was it your childhood dream to work for NASA?
Actually not. I actually also didn't know that it is possible to work at NASA until my third year of bachelor's. So I think that wasn't even something that would go through my mind, that I can work at NASA one day. And as a child, I didn't even consider a career of an engineer. So that wasn't something I was considering. I thought about being maybe a lawyer or a doctor. I think being a doctor, that was my first kind of dream job. Then being a lawyer, and then I had so many ideas of who I could be. But then when I was 15, I managed to progress in a maths competition in Poland. And since then I was like, okay, like maybe I can do something with maths and physics. And I started researching what are the opportunities, and I basically saw, like, I started thinking, like, who is actually building satellites and spacecraft, and like what do you have to do that? Because I started telling people that that's something I would like to do, but I didn't know that aerospace engineering is even a thing. And then I think I knew I wanted to study abroad, so I randomly went and started going through different pages, websites of universities. And then I realized that there's something like aerospace engineering. And since then I was like, okay, I want to study aerospace engineering. And that was, I think, when I was 16, 17, so quite late. And then I think NASA became a goal when I realized it is possible for foreign nationals to work here. Because I think, as you know, it's usually because at NASA, the employees of NASA are usually civil servants, so they have to be U.S. citizens or U.S. persons, like they're like legal permanent residents with a green card. But you can come on a program, like I am on the visiting, it's called JPL Visiting Student Research Program. So you can come and intern there, and then they can actually hire you as well as a foreign national. So there are some options, and if you're not from one of those restricted countries, then you can do it as well.
That's great. So I see that your career evolved. It was a process. And I've also read, I think, in one of the interviews with you, that you attended some art classes, and also that you attended musical school back in Poland, in your hometown, Gdańsk, and you played the piano. So what happened with this part of your education? Are you still, doing it maybe as a pleasure, or is it like, some put aside?
I did a lot of things as a kid, and I owe it to my parents. They put me in every single thing possible. And that was great because I could try out what I liked, what I didn't like. And one of those things was playing the piano. And I finished primary music school, and then I did this. Well, I finished 5 out of 6 classes of the secondary music school as well. So I had 1 year left to kind of get a title of a musician. But actually playing the piano was never my passion. I was more, I think, I was always driven to accomplish things, and just, even if I didn't like it, I would like keep on going. And there were things I liked about it, but I don't see it as my passion. And maybe it will become my passion one day. So since I finished my music school, I haven't really played much. I discovered other passions that are related to music and kind of my musical talents. And this is figure skating. I love figure skating. I go ice skating as often as I can. And I think that's kind of like I kept this interest in music and musicality, but through a different hobby. But I also I think that attending a music school and trying out so many different things, it kind of made me a person I am today, because I'm interested in a lot of things. Like, it's not only space, it's not only engineering. I love languages. I am fluent in 4 languages, and I want to learn as many as possible. Yeah, I love ice skating. I also love sports. Like, I used to do windsurfing in Poland, and then I competed a bit in the collegiate on a collegiate level in the UK. So I think it's just I see myself more as a person who is interested in a lot of things, and I try to develop my skills kind of cross-functionally, and I think that's also kind of makes me an interesting person to the recruiters. And I think that's kind of partially why I got the position at NASA. It wasn't necessarily because I was like an extremely strong engineer. Like, I had a lot of experience and I attended really good universities, but the competition is really high. So I think when I said that I speak 4 languages, for them, it was like, oh, maybe she can, she can learn other things as well. So that's why I started doing cartography, which I've never done before. So yeah.
You're like a real Renaissance person, I would say, with so many different interests. But if you could tell me more about what do you exactly do in NASA right now in this laboratory, what you're working on?
I work on 2 projects. One of the projects is mapping environmental disasters, or more like creating a tool that is going to take the data from the satellite about the disaster, about the disturbance of the surface of Earth or of water. So in this case, it will be flooding, and it processes it and outputs kind of like a summary of the disaster. So it's been like a kind of a product development role, and I've learned a lot. It's a lot of programming. But I think it's been challenging, and I think I've really learned how to work autonomously. And then the second task is very different, again, because I'm trying to really develop as many skills as possible, as I'm still a student and have this privilege to do that. So the second task is designing and building a drilling rig, and then the drill that we are going to use on this rig is going to help like collect the samples of the rocks that are similar to those we think are on Mars. And then those samples will be given to scientists, and they will help them understand what will be in the samples that will come back from Mars in, well, depends on the funding, but like 10 years time, 15 years time. So yeah, it's kind of like indirectly or maybe directly supporting the Mars exploration activities. So I'm really happy to be doing 2 completely different projects, and also with 2 different focuses. Like, one is on Earth observation and the other one is Mars exploration.
It sounds really, really exciting. But also, if I can ask you, what is your best memory so far from this experience?
Oh, wow. I think there are a lot. Overall, I think interning at JPL is a very emotional experience. There's so many things that are just happening, and like so many people you meet. So it's really, I think it's really great. It kind of like empowers you and shows you what's possible and how far you can get. And I think I really love the JPL tours, and just one of them would be in the spacecraft operations facility. And I think that had like a very big impact when they show you the videos of like past missions and like how people reacted to them and how much work they put in. And I think that this is something like when I see it and I see that I am part of it in some capacity, and how far I can go in the future, I think it's really like, it empowers you a lot. And I think then it makes you think that everything is possible. So I would say probably like those kind of just experiences at JPL, one of them being like tours of the facilities and everything that they show us and they tell us about.
I had a couple of interviews with, different scientists and doctors and engineers, and they always highlight the fact that you need lots of patience in this job, but also it is good to have some kind of mentor. So I wanted to ask you if you have any mentor that helps you, you know, that supports you and just pushes you always a little bit, you know, so you are challenging yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I think that doing everything alone is really challenging. And you need someone who is also not only your mentor, but also an advocate and goes and introduces you to people and kind of tries to create opportunities for you. So I definitely have a couple, and I am very grateful for all of them. But one person specifically, her name is Phoebe, and she was assigned to me through the mentorship program internally at JPL. And like I can't express how much she has helped me. She is meeting me every 2 weeks. So it's even for like she is quite high up at JPL, and for her to even give me 1 hour of her time every 2 weeks, I was just like, oh, isn't it too much for you? But then she does it. She really wants to do it. When I had a week where I didn't have where to stay, and she actually hosted me for a week as well. She introduced me to other people who then became my mentors. Um, she she's amazing. She's really extremely supportive, and I think it also mentors like that, they show you um you know how they guide you through the process and like through your kind of growth process, but also show you how far you can come, and that there are like different also types of people, engineers, leaders. Like it's not necessarily like an old NASA kind of stereotypical like white man from the 60s that is like, working at NASA. And if you don't follow his path and if you don't look like him and if you don't act like him, then you won't really get to this position. But Phoebe is like such a warm person, and she's so kind, but also like such a good leader. And it shows me that I can kind of be myself. I can still be like very approachable and nice to people, but I can still then lead and achieve a lot. Like I think that's like great. So Phoebe is a great mentor, and I was just, I don't know, so lucky. I don't know where, like she was sent from heaven. So yeah, I'm really grateful for her.
So it sounds like you have, some family, let's say, quote, there as well. My other question would be, what is your advice for a young person, let's say somebody who is watching this interview and this person is thinking about pursuing a career in space industry? So, just in a nutshell, what would be like your advice for this person,
I would definitely, first thing I would think about is that you have to have the right mindset in general to achieve like things. I think it is important to understand that like we can really do it. And I think in Poland's aerospace career, at least like when I was there, it wasn't very popular. So you kind of go against the grain and you say that you want to do something that other people don't haven't done before, or like don't really do on a daily basis. And I think it's very important to not to kind of let the limitations of others limit us. So if we start from this, like this is like the base for building and going forward. So that it's definitely possible. Like if you want to work at NASA one day, it is possible. So don't get discouraged. Even if there are people from certain countries that can't work at NASA right now, there are ways to like getting a green card before even working at NASA, and then somehow getting into the industry. So I believe like literally anyone can work at NASA. And then I think that it is very important to be proactive with searching for opportunities and networking. Like networking, especially in the US, it is something that I think we are not taught, or maybe from like Central Eastern Europe, we are not necessarily taught how to network and how much it can how many opportunities can be created through the network. But in the US, it's crucial. Like you have to go and present yourself, sell yourself. So I think that would be my advice, to get out there and just, talk to people, search for opportunities, take a plunge whenever you have to, and try something new as well. Like I think that it is it is great to be doing also one thing with aerospace, maybe focusing on one thing, but I would say also like explore. There's so many different aspects to space. Even there's like in aerospace industry, there's like space policy, and if you're interested in law and policy, you can do that. But I wouldn't have known about it, so definitely like go and try out different things, and yeah, and like continue pushing, follow your passions, and I think that those are like the most important. Like this is the most important advice, and really like also doing kind of a bit extra, just getting involved in those extracurricular activities, and learning how to build things, learning how to program stuff. So yeah, and you'll be fine.
It's interesting what you say about networking, because like networking is exactly what you have to do in a diplomatic job, building different cultural projects, starting them from the scratch. So yeah, for not only for engineers but for artists as well, networking is everything, especially here in the US. I must agree. You touched a little bit upon another question that I wanted to ask you that came to my mind. You studied in the UK, you studied in Germany, and I think you did an Erasmus in Sorbonne, so in France. Yes. So I wanted to ask you, when you compare the experience from Europe, from different countries, to this experience in NASA, being a student researcher, is there any difference in the way you work here in the US than in Europe or in some of the countries that you've been to, you studied in?
I think there are some differences, but they also stem from the kind of the size of the company and the culture of the company. So I think it is a bit tricky to compare, because in France I interned in a small startup, and the UK I interned at Rolls-Royce, which was like a big company comparable to JPL, maybe like it was even bigger than that. And then in Germany I interned at like kind of medium-sized company. So all of them had different cultures. All of them were, yeah, it was like a very different experience. But I think in general, I think as everyone knows, like the pace in the US is faster. Like it's definitely a fast-paced environment. Even though JPL is usually not known from being like a fast-paced environment, you don't have to work like 80 hours a week. But I've met a lot of interns that work on the weekends. And I think I used to remember how like it wouldn't have even crossed my mind, like working in Europe, to be like, oh, I have to work on a weekend as an intern. Like I kind of see like a full-time job, maybe a bit differently. But yeah, as an intern, like never crossed my mind. And then I think that here it is becoming like no one expects you to do it, but then when other people do it, you feel like you should also do it. So, but I think it's like self-discipline, so you don't have to do it. So, but that's what I realized. Also, the other thing is, I think my experience at JPL, well, it's different because I have two different teams. I just started in the second one, so I can't kind of say anything about that. But I think in general in the US, you are expected a bit more to be a bit more autonomous. So in general, be a bit more like, okay, like I get a task and then I have an idea how to do it and I go and do it. And then I remember in Europe, it was just like, oh, I can ask like literally any question. I bother people all the time. And I think it is partially like that at JPL. There are teams like that, but there are also teams, and I think that reflects a bit more the American industry of being a bit more autonomous and kind of, taking the lead and just owning your own project. So I think there are definitely pros and cons to this. It's not good or bad. It's just how it is. But I think it's very individual. There are different teams, but I think those are the two like main differences. The being like a more fast-paced environment, and then the second thing is being a bit more autonomous and owning stuff a bit more. But I think that at the same time, the progress could be potentially much larger. And I think that that's something why I'm here in the US. Is I think that if you put the effort in and if you do your work well, you can go really high and you can like kind of start making important decisions so much earlier on than in Europe. So, in Europe, you would be building your careers for years, unless you go to a startup or you have you kind of make it work somehow. But I think here it's even 5 years into your career and you already have you're making very important decisions. So that's what I like, but I also know it's stressful. So it may not be for everyone.
No, I think it's hard to find the balance, but you have to remember about it because probably the pressure is quite high. So I also wanted to ask you, what is the biggest challenge in your job or in what you're doing right now? Because I know it's a bit hard to define your job in one word,
I think it's actually very interesting that for me, the biggest challenge at JPL was compartmentalizing my emotions, because I think usually when we think about emotions affecting our job, it's usually those bad emotions. It's how, you're not, you feel like you're not doing well enough, or something is going on in your personal life and that affects the job. But I think at JPL, it was kind of like a flip side of that. It was just, there were too many exciting things that were too exciting. And I would feel like, oh, I can do anything. I would feel like really empowered. And I feel like that those emotions at one point, they just were overwhelming. And, it's fine if you do it from time to time and you have those moments. But I think if you have it every day, it's draining. Some days, because I would have so many coffee chats and talk to people and see what career opportunities there are for aerospace engineers in the future. And I think that then I kind of felt a bit yeah, sometimes I would be just too happy and too excited to continue working. And that kind of, I think I've really started learning how can you kind of regulate yourself and control it and focus on work. And then go and make the most out of those emotions. But I think that this is actually, I think, the most challenging thing, and thing that I haven't really experienced before coming to JPL. I had those moments where I'm, of course, empowered and happy and I feel like I can do anything. But then here it's a bit too much. Yeah, which is, I think it's not necessarily something bad. It's something that you just have to learn how to regulate. And I kind of wish it to everyone that they have an environment where they can feel empowered.
Yeah. But sometimes you're right, it can be too much, hyperactive in a way. So I think my last question is, what are your plans for future? You're already doing research at the NASA. So what are your plans? Would you like to stay in the US, or maybe go back to Europe, or maybe move to a completely different, continent?
I think I am at the point of reevaluating my options right now, and not only options, but asking myself what I actually want to do. I think I've had over the last 7 years just traveling, not traveling, studying in different countries and partially traveling through that. I've really discovered what I like and what I would like to do. But there are many things, and I think life is, well, hopefully long. We never know. But I hope that I will have enough time to do all those things. And I know that being a student, it is in some way kind of something that finishes at one point. And then I didn't think that much about what's next. So I was always thinking of how can I make the most out of my studies. And NASA is definitely a goal. And then when you achieve this goal, it's okay, so I've been here, and then what do I want to do next? And now I'm actually going back to thinking, what were my dreams? What are my dreams? What I've always wanted to do. And I won't share them right now here, but I think I will try to, even if they are not related to the aerospace sector or exploration. And there are so many other things that interest me and I want to contribute to, that I will try to make those dreams come true, I think, together with doing something else and trying out different things. But I'm definitely open to opportunities. So I think I've definitely took some risk in the past, where I went to, study, even like going to Germany to do my master's. I could have easily stayed in the UK. I didn't have to work for a year at Rolls-Royce. Like I just decided, I don't know even how, I didn't even want to do a year in industry. And then I think I applied and I thought, okay, maybe I'll just tell them during the interview that I want to just come for the summer. But I didn't say that. And then I got a year-long job, and then I stayed there. And it was like one of the best decisions of my life. Then moving to Paris was also quite spontaneous, and finding a job there and then going and studying. So I think that I'm definitely trying to kind of keep up this mindset and this attitude and like kind of approach to life, that if there's a great opportunity that comes up, I will take it. And I won't be fixated on like, oh, I want this specific job, and if I don't get it, then I'll be like extremely upset. I think that sometimes that's the thing. Like if you're open to opportunities, like there's some things that happen in your life that are the best things that could have ever happened. So I think that in general, yeah, I think about those dreams that I've had before and what do I still want to do. I believe that honestly, like if you really want something, it will happen. You just have to work for it. And I'm just not trying to kind of limit myself in my mind how, oh no, either I'm too old to do it, or oh no, because then if I go and try something else, I will never go back to the aerospace industry. Yeah, I'm just like, I've learned so many lessons over the last 7 years, and I am just, have a very open-minded approach.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think sometimes you need to take risk and take this, leap of faith, and very often it's just a coincidence of meeting someone or some involvement of, let's say, luck that helps you in some of the situations. So that's definitely a thing. So fingers crossed that all of your dreams come true and your future plans. And once again, thank you very much for this, very interesting interview. And once again, all the best.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.